it's kind of like blown away whatever like notions I had about coding with AI. It's quite phenomenal and become a daily user.
There is one key takeaway. It's all about everything is around context. Let me show you that is completely built with Claude Code, and the funny part is I built it using Rust.
For the entire session, this is quite amazing. Okay, I think it's time to start, folks. Awesome. Quite a few new faces this time. Like, folks, welcome to another session on AppliedAI Club. I think this is our 39th session overall. So giving you, for folks who are new, giving you a little bit of introduction about what we do over here. So we are AppliedAI Club. We are an open community. So our aim is to help leaders and practitioners like you get affiliated with AI, learn to work with these tools. Actually, they're not so difficult once you actually get into it, and we want to be the facilitator which will actually help you do that. Right now, there are a couple of large things that we do. One is every week Saturday we get like one expert to come and teach us a particular concept around AI. Right, so these are open. Just like today, we have a session on Claude Code. So we have one session today. This happens typically at 10 o'clock. That's where about 99% of our sessions have actually happened. You also can go and see our past sessions in YouTube. They're all available for free. So go to AppliedAI Club and you'll be able to see past videos. There are some quite good ones for you, both advanced and basic. That's the first thing. The second thing we do is periodically we also conduct this thing called study groups, where we take a particular concept around AI and we ask people to learn and build specific projects around it. So there's a way for people who are new to AI to learn by themselves. So that also happens occasionally. Apart from this, we have a WhatsApp group. We have about like 40 people there, mostly to discuss day-to-day take help and build with the community, right? So that's the mostly the things we do. If you're interested in joining, just check out AppliedAI.club. There is a small form, fill it up, and we'll add it to the community, and you can be part of future sessions in a much easier way. Awesome. So that's the introduction. So getting into today's session. So before I hand it over, a bit of housekeeping. So we have a fairly large audience. I'm expecting about 50 to 60 people, probably more. So given that, we'll try to keep the the questions in the chat. So just drop any questions you have in the chat so that the presenter is actually not disturbed. So we'll pause occasionally and we'll take questions whenever we can. Anyway, towards the end of the session, we'll have 5-10 minutes for Q&A specifically. And if the session goes too long, we will probably do a second part of this session at some time later in the future, right? So that's the main. Now coming to today's session. So started using it about a couple of weeks earlier, and within a week I realized that I need to go for the max plan. So I ended up by paying $8,000 to now it's $9,000 to get that max plan, and I don't regret. I'm not a person who easily spends money on these kind of tools, but spending that money because it's kind of like blown away whatever like notions I had about coding with AI. It's quite phenomenal, and I've become a daily user, and I've gotten to a level where I'm using some servers to work on some other projects that I actually have. So that's when I reached out to my network and tried to figure out who has been a long-term user of Claude Code and who knows his advanced skills, etc. And Vaishak's name came up. I spoke to Vaishak. I was checking out what he was actually building, and a very, very interesting product, I would say. And I have started becoming a user of his product. If probably Vaishak can explain what it does in a much better way than I can. But I'm quite impressed with whatever he's built, and a lot of what he's building, he's using Claude Code to make that happen. So that's how our conversation started, and since then we've been discussing a few things around how to use it effectively, which seems quite amazing. I thought we have to bring him in and for the larger community to understand how to work with Claude Code in an efficient manner, right? So looking forward to this session, Vaishak. Over to you, and yeah. So probably give a bit about talk a bit about like what you're building also. That'll also help.
Sure. I'll go in. I think as people are joining, I think we could have this conversation because I think people are slowly joining in. I'm Vaishak. I have run a couple of startups in the past. my previous startup is a business intelligence startup called DataBrain. I was a CTO and co-founder in it. And this is the product that Bala was mentioning is a new product that I'm currently working on. And I have leveraged Claude Code exhaustively for the last 3 months. I've been using Claude Max plan, like Bala said, the $200 plan. And I've been, if you will, I exhausted like to 90%. In fact, I have two plans, 2 accounts for that. So I shared the second account. I shared with somebody else. So I have been leveraging Claude Code a lot, and I think I've been working on it 1.5 years ago. From 1.5 years ago, because I had something similar built called Drive CLI, which is a command line tool similar to Claude Code before Claude Code came in. So that is why I'm already obsessed with how it fits my workflow. Anyway, that's about me, and I could talk about my product and the rest of the thing towards the end of the session also. I hope we can get started. Then I will share my screen and begin. In case if you have any pertinent including, I think we cannot stop the session in between for any questions. If at all, like really pressing, I think maybe if not, we can add, right?
Now, what I'll do is I'll keep looking at the chat. If there is something that is in context, I'll just disturb you.
Got it. All right. Okay, then let's dive in. For the people, I think a lot of people, non-technical people are also there in the call. So I'll give a quick overview. So this is how the agentic landscape is there. So you have the IDEs, cursor, winds of anti-gravity. So, okay, what I was mentioning is in agentic coding, you have 2 landscapes. So there are the IDEs, which are cursor, winds of anti-gravity, and you have the command line tools like Claude, Gemini, Codex. And also you have these Chinese models, Chinese coding agents like GLM, Kimi, all these are there. So this is the broad landscape. In today's session, whatever I cover with Claude, I hope it translates to other agentic thing also. So this is how you can see. So for example, in one of the topic is going to be skills. As you can see, most of them are following the same standard. So this will be predominantly Claude session. Like we will go in depth in Claude Code, but I want this to be transferable to all the other coding platform. So that is the objective of the session. So broadly, this is the topic that we are going to see. Let me show you for the people who have not installed Claude. Here, this is how you install Claude. You can go to Claude Code docs and you can do any of these installation and you can get started right away. And you can go to your terminal. I assume most of you here are some sort of intermediate in coding or like in the terminal use case. So I'm going to right away make a project. So here I'm creating a project and I'm getting inside the project. As soon as you install Claude, since it's a terminal tool, you will have it available like this. Okay. And you can press enter and you can get right into it. And you can say, hey, can you create me a simple HTML file? It's going to do that because I think majority of you people will already know. So what Claude tool does is, so the concept of tooling is important here. So whenever you ask in chatgpt.com or Claude or Gemini in your web, it only talks to you, or maximum it has a tool calling of web search. It can do web search tool calling. In your system, be it cursor or this Claude Code, it also has additional tool calling related to executing script, creating files, and installing things or accessing your system related process, all this. So since it has terminal command access, it has access to all your systems. So this is called tool calling. So it can read, write, execute script. Can you run a simple server and open this in Chrome? So first, as you can see, so I will be starting it in a little bit of a basic sense because there could be people who have never used Claude Code. So that is why for people who are already familiar, it might feel redundant. But so here, what I made Claude Code do is I asked it to run a simple server. So like I told you, it has the ability to do tool calling. So it did a Python command and it ran the command, and it also opened up Chrome and loaded this particular screen that I just created, this particular file that I just created. So as you can see, Claude Code has access to all this tool calling, which is shell script, writing files or opening application, all this. So this is what Claude Code does. Now let's go a little bit in depth, like what are the things available in Claude Code. If you use / commands, you can see the list of commands that are available. So you can say like working directory. Or the first thing what I would ask you guys to check, or what I use a lot, is settings, because here is where you can see your usage. For example, okay, I have used only 33%. Okay, I have to ramp up because it resets in 3 days. So I need to, I have not used much this week. So I have to go to, if you go to config, you can see other things that are there. So this is your status. And one of the thing, when you go to statuses, you can see that I'm using Claude Code Max account. You can also use Claude Code through your API key. If you're an organization, if you have some funds, because there are VC funds who will give you API key credits. If you use that, you can also log in through that API key. Here, I have only used my Max account. It will be authenticated when you do login and log out. So this will be pretty straightforward when you install it first time. But and the other important thing is context. In this entire session, if there is one key takeaway, it's all about everything is around context. So that is the way in which you can leverage Claude Code. So as you can see, these are my contexts. So these are the things that are occupying my tokens. So currently I already have certain MCP server already there. So that is why it is taking up. So these are the MCP servers, or these are the things that are taking up my context. Context of Claude Code. For people who do not know, Claude Code or this generative LLM, it has a memory. Think of context like a memory. So it can accommodate so much. So if you have $20 Pro plan or something, and you have so many MCP server or so many things in your context window, you will hit your usage limit faster. In every request, these things are included. These things are preloaded. So what I mean by these things, it could be, for example, in our chat conversation, I have been talking about this. So in my next conversation, you say, can you simplify HTML? Let's say whatever I mentioned. So when I say simplify HTML, it knows the context here is index.html, right? Because it's in the chat context. The entire thing is every time it's sent. For people who are not aware, the context, it could be the current chat window, or it could be several other things that are hidden, that is not visible to you. Some of which is called MCP, something or skills, which I will get into. So far, I hope nobody has any questions. I'll get to other things. Okay. The other thing is, let's say this is a simple project. I've just started it. I want to do Git in it, which is I want to push it to my GitHub. So before I push to GitHub, I have to do Git in it. I can ask it to, can you do Git? Can you set up Git? Let's say, so the way I would say is, you can talk to Claude very freely, right? Like, can you set up Git? I know it might sound lazy, because I could just go to another terminal to Git in it. So I even have a shortcut called GI. But here you could talk to Claude for non-technical people, because the session has to be for people who are manager or non-technical people also. I'm trying to address to them. And even though I am technical, sometimes I prefer talking to Claude like this. So now you have Git repo initialized. I can ask it, okay, sometimes if I don't want Claude to do this, the same thing I can do Git in it like this. As you can see, this shebang or the exclamatory mark will let you run the commands directly if you don't want to go to a different terminal and do it. Okay, for the people who are technical, you could just do, so here, let's say I do git commit hyphen. So this is similar to you opening up a terminal and doing git commit. Okay, so you can do this shebang thing or the exclamatory thing, and you can directly do that. Since here I haven't added, I can do git add dot and do that. Now this brings me to the next part. What happens is, whenever I git commit, especially in my project, like I told you, I'm trying to exhaust my Claude plan, and what I do is sometimes I have two tabs, like since it's my desktop app, I'm not able to run a lot because my memory goes off. So if not, I would have done like 4 or 5 tabs of the same application. So sometimes, typically, I have 2 tabs, 2 different features or 2 different bug fixes. If it is my desktop app, of course, I have other things for websites. So what happens is it will be working on totally unrelated things. So when I have to stage and commit, I have to cohesively stage and commit. So that is only the related files I need to stage, and then I have to commit. I thought, okay, I don't want to do this manually. Why not just ask Claude to do it? The easy way is to say, hey, Claude, can you commit it? Commit the relevant files in the relevant way, it will do it. Or you can say, hey, Claude, can you create a commit command of which stages and commits the relevant files? Now now I'm going to steer away into a topic of things. Okay. Wait. This is not what I wanted. What, as you can see, it says that co-authored by Claude Opus. Okay, I don't want it. I don't want it to say that it's co-authored or anything. So I want to say, hey, can you remove the co-author settings in Git commit of Claude Code? Check Claude Code docs. I would suggest you guys not to go to the browser and check the Claude Code documentation or anything. What you can do is you can always ask Claude itself about the settings, configuration, about all the things that are available in net. And because they themselves have this particular agent or skill which will look up their docs. So in this case, as you would have noticed, okay, this is the way in which you can prevent code from getting itself attribution, right? Every time in a commit, it says that co-authored by Claude Code. So this is the way to do it. And as you can see, there are 3 settings. You can set it at a project level, which is only specific to this folder, or you can specify in the project, but only for you. So it could be like this. It will be part of the git ignore, and or Claude Code will not take it, even if the other person is going to have it. Or you can have a global level setting. So I'm going to say, hey, can you make it user level? So what happens is next time when I do git, next time I ask Claude to commit, it's not going to get included. So here, settings is similar to any of your, if you're somebody who use VS Code, which is an IDE, you have the same concept, which has VS Code has its own settings locally, and also there is a global settings. It's similar to any other tool. And this particular thing is a JSON file. So you can modify, like you can directly also modify, or you can ask Claude to do. If you ask like, what are the other settings similar that are useful? If you talk to it, you might find some settings. So one of the settings could be permissions. As you would see, each time it is asking me permission to not only to write, but also to execute, right? Like certain commands could be, since certain, I don't want to redundantly do it. One way is you give auto accepts on, which is when I press shift tab, it will not ask me permission to do whether should I write or not. So this will allow Claude to directly write each time. If I do shift tab, the accepts edit on will be on, and it will allow the Claude Code will not ask me permission to write. Similarly, I could have a settings configured such that permissions read, write, do not ask, or write, do not ask. So these are some of the things. So always thinking mode. By default, you can set it up. So where it will be thinking a little bit more and then do it. And similar to what I just mentioned, permissions. If you are like every time there is a git command or git related commands or npm commands, do not ask me anytime. It will be not asking you. And by default, if it tries to access any of your .env, where typically you have all the secrets, API keys, all that being loaded, you can ask it to say that you automatically deny, like you can do that. Okay, these are some of the settings that are there. You can set it globally or you can set it locally. Now that I have set it up, And now that I have set the Git to do this, now let me also, so far settings, and we have seen the inbuilt slash commands. The other is compact, which might be useful, which I will get to. Okay, now let me dive into something called since we are in the topic of Git commit, I want to show you my workflow where how I do Git commit. I do not ask Claude to do Git commit. I ask Claude, can you create a Claude commands called commit, which does appropriate.
Vaishak, sorry to interrupt. I think there is one important narration that is coming out, which is what is the advantage of using Claude Code on the terminal versus using it on, let's say, VS Code, or using it on like the Claude application. Let's cover that a little bit so that people, yeah.
Oh yeah, actually, so here's where for the people, okay, what happened is let me open up the same sample repo that we did here, right? So Claude also have a thing called desktop. So since most of you would have heard about Cowork, this week it was released. So this is one of the tab. You can directly chat to it, which will not have any file or this thing. For people who are not comfortable with terminal, you can go here also and say that can you make can you make HTML look better? Add some CSS, something like that. So what happens is whatever I do in the terminal, the same thing is going to happen here. And here here you can see the div, you can see the things. Actually, in my opinion, this is much better feature rich in terms of they also released a thing where you can see the div intuitively and you can click on a particular point to revert and all. See if you can see this one, right? Like so this is Claude Code in desktop, where you see this, and here this is how it looks here. Intuitive, the difference here is honestly for me it is
the question is not on Claude Code.
I understand VS Code and here, yeah.
If I may kind of attempt that, right? So see, if you look at, there is a chat window, there is using it with any IDs like cursor or VSC, etc. Then using it on terminal, and these actually serve 3 different purposes. Now, if you look at the chat window, what you typically do is, let's say I want to work on a particular Excel file, or I want to create a small script to run something, or you simply want to discuss, how do you create this artwork or whatever. What you typically do is you copy the file from local, you put it in the chat window, you chat, and finally whatever output it creates, you download it and put it somewhere else, right? So these are like one-off use cases which you just want to ask suggestions or whatever. And that is great. Like, let's say you want to simply write an email or write a content. You ask the chat window, it gives you the content, you copy and paste it somewhere else, right? So those simple use cases, it is okay. But for you to kind of like do write some small scripts, whatever, this copy pasting, uploading, downloading, giving the context, it's actually a lot of. That is where the doing it on the terminal, the advantage is that you don't have to upload, download anything. You tell Claude Code, hey, I have this file in this folder saying this is a context, so why don't you create the file? So Claude will probably do all that mechanism by itself on the terminal, and it will write the final file in the disk itself. So you don't have to do all of this back and forth. The context is always there, so that becomes very, very easy. Now coming to VS Code or Cursor versus using like this Claude Code, right? They're for 2 different purposes. Now, if you want to edit certain files, you know that you're going to code, you want an assistant to help you. So that is where VS Code or Cursor and everything helps. Claude Code essentially is kind of what you call an agentic way of coding, where you simply give instructions. You don't have to verify what it has actually written so much because it is actually very accurate. You don't want to instruct small things. A lot of these things can happen autonomously. So that is where the terminal. So if you look at the terminal, you simply give instructions. You don't review all the changes it has actually done. It autonomously kind of like does all of these things, right? So that's where Claude Code becomes more important. So you can just initiate a session, go off to somewhere else and come back. We don't really have to worry about. So when since things have progressed to that extent, so we find Claude Code a lot more intuitive. In terms of co-work and code in the in the cloud application versus terminal, it is just a personal preference. I prefer using the terminal because it's a lot more intuitive for me, but it's the same experience in both. Vashak, sorry. Yeah, please go.
So I'll get to the part where we were in the commands thing. Okay, so for me, like Bala said, you can, if you are somebody who is using Claude Code desktop or this, I think it depends on your workflow, entire thing, like if it is cursor or this. So in my case, I find it lightweight. So I feel that I can just create a new tab and I can start another Claude session. I can create another tab. I can start another Claude session like that. So I feel like it doesn't take up a lot of memory. But the downside is you cannot see the diff. You cannot see what is happening. If you need more control, IDE purpose would be nice, or the desktop thing would be much more nice, much more intuitive is what I would think. Now coming back to commands, like previously we saw that Claude has a thing called okay, for people who do not know, so we saw that in the previous settings, if you had observed, there were 3 settings. One of the thing is global level settings, the other is project level settings, right? And also the project and local setting. So anything that is a project level settings, it will create a .claude folder, and there was a settings JSON, right? So we created a settings where it cannot co-author itself in that particular JSON, but it's a global level. Now, the concepts that we are going to see next, skills, commands, all these are Claude specific thing, and all these things I want to do it project specific. So it will typically go inside your folder in a folder called .claude. Let's first do something called commands. What commands are? Here I'm saying, like if we can go back. So I told, like, can you create commit command which stages, even if there are 10-15 files, it will know what are the file to stage and what is the commit message to give, and it will commit. So that is the thing that I want. It's just a markdown file. It just,
is it like a shortcut command? Is it a good way to think of commands and shortcuts?
Shortcut, yes. So first thing is we define it. So this is the definition. I'll show you how it can run, right? So here it says that do git status, do git diff, check the log, stage appropriate file. So so this is my instruction to instruction. This is how the command should, just a prompt. Let's just say I have added it, and if I go here, you can see that in this particular folder, this particular markdown file is there. Now I might have to restart, and you see this commit. It's just a command. So all I can do is press tab, enter. Earlier we saw /settings, /usage, /compact and all that. Here it becomes one of the commands. So what this would invoke is whatever is there in this particular markdown. I typically use this to do /commit, /merge, /pull, because sometimes when you pull, if you have conflicts, it will try to do all that thing, as in it will try to resolve the conflicts, and in a much more, you don't need to return it. If you are somebody who's anyway going to ask Claude Code to do stuff, it doesn't make sense. So so I have /commit, /pull, /push. So when I do push, if there is anything that is not push, if there is some changes there, it knows that it has to pull. So there is certain cognitive load thing also. In my case, what is happening is it goes on a recursion. What happens is every time I push, there is a check called git. Okay, I don't want to go deep in it because it's just 10:35. Anyway, the point is there is a thing called commands. You can have /commit command, /push command, anything. It's up to you. So commands typically.
Yeah, one of the things that I actually use it for is, let's say I want to run some tests every time I build something. What I do is every time the Claude actually runs, updates some part of code, I simply run a command. It's saying that do unit tests, right? So Claude opens a browser, it does all of those unit tests by itself. So it's a way to kind of like easily invoke certain activities. right? Rather than providing in these instructions every single time, I can run this command called test. It knows what is that, like I want to test. Those things are provided in the empty file. So it just runs these tests, which is very easier and useful.
Now that we saw commands, let's see the very common overhyped MCP, Model Context Protocol. You can check the list of MCP here. I have a built-in Claude Chrome MCP already. Maybe I should disable it for now. Okay, for now let it be there. So what we'll do is, since we are already working on a HTML file, you have designers who can create Figma, and I want a Figma design similar to what my designer created. You can ask Claude itself to say, hey, can you add me a Figma MCP? So it will figure out like where to add. If you have Salesforce, linear, whatever, say MCP is just a wrapper around your API endpoints. If a lot of these services already give you an API, it just wraps. So very useful MCP are Figma MCP in my point of view. And also there is something called Playwright. Playwright MCP is also something that people use a lot. Especially if you're into front-end development. What you need is, okay, I'll show you rather than it's better to show than tell. What is the thing? Safari. Okay. Here, this is my Figma. I randomly Google for some Tailwind design. Let's just say we want to design this component. Okay. And I give it this particular endpoint. Yep. So I say remote MCP. It is adding the MCP. Another thing is, each time if I don't want to do permissions thing, I can ask it, I can either add it in the settings JSON. The other way is that you can do dangerously skip permission. This is, in my system, I don't have anything sensitive in terms of or important. I think my laptop is a very brand new laptop. That is why I'm not able to share my screen initially. So I work in this particular thing. I even call it, I have an alias called YOLO, which is, so it goes in, and it will not ask any permission, just goes on a low. It can, but it's really, it can go anyway, but I prefer this way so that it doesn't ask permission. And along with that, one of the settings that is useful is -p, which is prompt. Is it hey, can you give me one line poem or something like that? I just want to demonstrate what is this thing. So what this would do is, it will not get into an interactive mode. It will immediately reply, which means you can use it in your shell script. So one of my use cases, my website, I wanted to make it multilingual. So what I do is, I have written a script which will invoke this particular Claude-p, saying that, hey, give me this particular translation for this particular line. It will just loop. So this particular Claude-p is another useful parameter in the for the command line tool. And maybe I can come to the end.
Sorry, I didn't get that -p. What does it do?
So Claude-p would let you do things in a non-interactive mode. So if you do Claude enter, it will get into this, right? It will get into interactive mode.
Okay, got it.
Claude-p, it is similar to Echo or LS or what. So it's which means you can include it part of your shell script. It could, in your Python or whatever, you can invoke it like a script. So it's just a terminal script.
Understood.
Yeah. So that is what Claude-p. It has very good use case. One of the use case which is extremely popular these days is called RAF-WIGM. RAF-WIGM is a concept the community is making popular. Is that you go on a loop. So what Claude will do is, so it's just a shell script. There will be a file, like let's say a markdown file. Let's just say that create me a Facebook-like app. But you divide it into phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. Okay, Facebook is too old. Maybe I'm too old. So phase 1 is you make the front end, the feed, friends, whatever, the back end, and then like, follow, something. Just say you have an exhaustive plan, like it's a very big plan. Problem, if you go here, and I can also say, hey, can you check plan.md and do everything? What typically will happen is, it will say, it will stop at some point. It like, hey, I did plan 1, plan 2. Do you want me to do the other thing?
Vaishak, I think a good way to probably explain this, right? So we can skip to skills and other things probably in the next session.
Sure.
Just do a very simple application, and to do the say like how do we, like let's say a novice would simply write a simple prompt and say like build the entire application. So how do we go from there? Let's say what if we include this this Ralph become method. What happens, let's say, if we include .cloud.md file? What happens if we, let's say, include like skills, etc.? So probably that would be a better way to follow it, because we are throwing a lot of concepts, right? It might be difficult for people to follow.
True. Makes sense. So here, I'll come back to our Figma MCP. I asked Claude to add an MCP server called Figma. So Claude added itself, and I told me to restart. So which is, I again closed it. I did Control-C, which is to stop it. And again, I went to Claude. This time, I'm trying to authenticate, okay? And I'm allowing it the Figma access. So now that it has Figma access, let me say that, okay, let me check first whether it's authenticated. Okay, Figma is connected. Claude and Chrome is also connected. I can say.
Can you show the design once? What you are trying to?
Sorry.
Okay.
It's just random thing. I just searched for this thing. Can you make this sidebar? Create sidebar HTML or something. Okay. So what this would do is, it will, since it has Figma MCP, it will use Figma MCP to connect to Figma, which is a remote resource. It will take the design elements, every design elements, and it will slowly impart it. So the advantage is, it as it is trying to integrate, it will try to get at least 90-95% accuracy. Like mostly these days it's getting 90. Earlier it was like 80-85%. But there could be things like, okay, this logo is not correct, the padding is not correct. There could be issues like that. So for that, what we can do is, we have one more MCP, which is called Playwright MCP, which was what majority of people are using. But I think a couple of weeks back, Claude came in with the concept of Chrome. So this command /Chrome is already there in your Claude Code. All you have to do is do /Chrome. Is it not opening? Okay, okay. Until this is finished, it's not opening. Let me open another tab. I'll let this thing to follow the design as it is doing the design from Figma. Let's go to the other tab and I'll show you what is Chrome MCP. What Claude will do is, it will connect to Chrome. If there is any console error, network request, it has full control on whatever is happening in the entire Chrome window. Okay, so that is what this Chrome MCP is. It is there inbuilt. You can just enable it after you click here. Okay, so this is Claude MCP. Okay. Our thing is almost done. Our sidebar HTML is almost done. So this is MCP. MCP is I so far have showed Figma MCP and Chrome MCP. You can also have MCP that connects to you. Okay, it is asking for me. Okay, it itself is triggering MCP. I didn't ask it to do anything. What this is doing is, it is trying to match if the design is same as whatever the Figma thing is. Okay, I didn't do anything. See, if you can see, because it knew that it has access to the Claude Chrome MCP. All I told it is to make the Figma design and create the sidebar HTML. It is getting over smart, but in my use case, it makes sense. So it is starting a shell script. What this would do is, it will start, so it can preview this particular HTML file in that particular localhost 8000. And what Claude in Chrome is going to do is, it's going to navigate to that particular URL, check if that particular sidebar, okay, we have the design. Okay, first thing is, it did the design almost 90-95%, right? And I think it's almost 95. So the logo, everything matches to what we gave. So it just did the thing. And on top of it, in our use case, it also verified using its pin of Chrome. It verified if the thing matches. Okay, so in case if there is a clear mismatch, let's say the logo is mismatched or something, it will fix on its own. It will again connect to Figma. It will go on a loop. So if you are somebody who's doing a front end, all you need to do is ask a designer to give you a design, you need to tell Claude, hey, here's the design, check the design, match it as much as possible. So Claude will spin off Chrome, it will take screenshot, or it will take whatever the rendered element, check how much accurate it is. It will again work on the code. Okay, so this is one of the clear extreme use case where you can, even in front-end development, you can go on a loop and have the thing executed. So this is MCP.
Right. So we spoke about Chrome, right? And we also, so I think the ability for Claude to use Chrome is configured as an MCP, correct? Is that understanding right?
Yes, yes.
So it can like just open Chrome for a particular site. It can check the front end. It can use dev tools, etc.
Yes.
It can debug by itself, and then it can come back with the results.
Yes. So the other thing is, if you don't want this inbuilt Chrome MCP, you can also ask it to install Playwright MCP, which is another tool which will let you open up Chrome, check the thing and all that. So, but I think Claude team observed a lot of people are using Playwright. So I think they are shipping this inbuilt. So this is about MCP. You can extend MCP to a lot other use cases. So, but the problem, the gotcha with MCP is you need to check your context each time, because MCP, if you have all this MCP, even before you type anything into your chat, your context is already loaded with these number of tokens. Okay, so this is the issue with terminal. Like if it will just go off sometimes. So the thing is, these are the tokens. So already 32K tokens are gone. So you need to be, that is one of the issue that is happening right now. People are like, including Claude themselves or Anthropic themselves, who introduced this thing, are saying that let's move away from MCP to something else. MCP is still being actively used. So they introduced a concept called skills. Skills is an alternate, not alternate, but skills is a concept where without you using certain MCP or certain things, you can also predominantly use skill. For example, in this, before I talk about skill, I think I forgot to mention about one important thing, which is cloud.md. As you would have noticed in the context, these are things that are loaded. But every time I start my coding or my project, let's say I'm in my website project. So this is a website. Let's just say this is my marketing website or landing page for somebody coming in. I say that I want to create cloud.md with accessibility and dark mode. So what happens is cloud.md will have a certain set of rules defined in it. Next time onwards, if you ask Claude to do, let's say, sidebar HTML or something, it will try to first follow, okay, are the instruction given in cloud.md done here? For example, here I say that it needs to be dark mode compliant. Even if I say sidebar HTML footer, make this, it will make that, but it will also check cloud.md, that whatever is there in the project guidelines, it will check, is it adhering to that guideline? It will also modify. So you don't have to each time say, can you make...
So cloud.md is like the global instruction file, right? For
yes, it's a global instruction file. Okay. So this is extremely important, especially if you're coding. I'm obsessed with it. This is very, very important. Cloud.md is. I configure it almost every week because Claude can go in several directions. For example, if I have a backend project, I say you have to put these folders, services folder. It has to, because sometimes what Claude does is it will put in a very incoherent folders, especially if you're in front end or back end development. If you're in front end, okay, I need UI components to be in this folder, and there should not be any string hard coded inside a file. The files the string has to be outside, like it has to be in a separate, because my application and my website are multilingual. I don't want Claude to hard code, so I tell it to use strictly. So every time I begin a session or when I'm in a chat, Claude will follow this guideline along with whatever chat instruction I give. But the problem is, as your chat becomes bigger, Claude can not follow some part of your instruction. So that is when you have to review or do stuff, because it can hallucinate. Hallucination is a problem. The larger the context, the larger it can hallucinate. That is when you will be confused, like, though I clearly mentioned to cloud.md that never do this or do this, why is it not following it? Sometimes it doesn't, because the context could be lot. There's a needle in the haystack problem, whereas the problem is Claude or any LLM, if the context is so big, sometimes in between context it can miss. So it could be any of those. So be aware that not necessarily it will follow your instruction. So you need to have other guardrails. It could be your review system or something to check that it follows it. But majority of them, if it is a small project, it will follow your global instruction. So that is what cloud.md is. Now I will quickly mention about skills. Okay, I'll open up my actual project, which is, so this is my project. This is a mono. It's a really giant project, which is, you have the front end, back end, desktop app, web app, everything in one single folder. What happened was my cloud.md had like thousands of files, thousands of lines. Like I think it was like 3,000, 4,000, something more than that. I think there were thousands of lines of code. Problem was it's way too much of a context. Sometimes I ask it to make modification in the front end code. Problem is when it is trying to make modification in front end code, it also has global instructions on backend related thing, like, hey, in backend you have to do this. It's irrelevant, right? But why am I loading that irrelevant context? So what I decided is, you know what, let's keep the thing very simple. So this is the very simple. So I just say this is the desktop app, this is the web app. I'm actually showing my real code. So this gives a very rough outline, and I created something called skills. Okay, so what happens is, so as you can see, I have a brainstorm skill, which is whenever I brainstorm with it, I say that, you know what, research, let's say I say I want to implement this feature, PDF preview. How do I do it? I just discussed with it. There is a certain instruction given it. Similarly, okay, I think I'm straying away. Forget the brainstorm part.
Let me try attempt this, right? So see, like, let's say yours is a large project and working on multiple things. It is not possible to put all those instructions in like one cloud.md file, because Claude only has so much context, it will definitely hallucinate, right?
Yes.
A good practice where skills actually comes in is you put the primary context about the project, what is your way of working or whatever, in the main Claude file. And then you create specific skills. Skills, for example, hey, like when you are planning, doing some planning action, or let's say you are testing,
yep,
use this particular skill. Skill is basically context. So when it does testing, it says what is a file it should read on how to do testing. When it is not doing testing, it will ignore all of that. That means it doesn't have to load all of this in context. When it is doing testing, it knows that it has to read that file. It will go read that specific file and figure out how to do testing.
Yes.
So testing is a simple use case. For example, let's say I have a use case where I ask Claude to create thumbnails for my videos, right? So that skill file basically has saying that how do you use Nano Banana? What is the API? Where are you going to get the environmental variables from? What is the brand color we have for AppliedAI? So all of those things are in a skill file. So when Claude is doing any other thing, it doesn't refer to that at all. But when it is doing thumbnail work, it reads that file, it knows how to create a thumbnail and goes and creates a thumbnail. It is like you're isolating your context in specific skills. So only when the skill is needed, it actually gets.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you can invoke skills in two different ways. One is you don't invoke skills, you let Claude to figure out. So say in this case, I say, can you make our tabs in workspace with better border? So it understood that it's a front-end related work. What it will do is it will invoke the front-end skills to do it. Or if I don't want that, what I can do is I can manually say this is my skill. Skill also becomes a command. So you can say, can you do this design or something like that. So you can also invoke skill yourself. So one of the very useful skill is, can you create a brainstorm skill which does the search by searching in web for the topic in discussion. For example, I'm in my website, my marketing website for SEO and all that purposes. You're somebody who wants to write content and you want to write some HTML page. But each time when you brainstorm, you want it to do certain actions, like it could be web search and consolidate everything and then give you a feedback. You can do a /brainstorm as well. So what it would do is it will create a skill.md file, and you can see, okay, I don't know why it created a command. I need to ask it to say, technically, it might look similar, command and skill. The only difference is just we conceptually we are isolating and how we invoke it also, right? Like some technically it all looks the same markdown file only. But so this is what skill is. 3 days ago, I think anti-gravity, that is Gemini team from Google, also included the skills concept. So they also follow the same skills pattern. So this is about skills. Like I showed you, I have front-end skill, back-end skill, and the brainstorm skill that I have configured. So CLAUDE.md global settings commands. And okay, there are two other things that I'll quickly walk over, which is agents. So agents is nothing but it's again similar to skill. Only thing is, okay, I'll show you in my real project. So I have an agent called phase executor. So here, what the difference between skills and agents is that you can ask Claude to, let's say, can you research about IPOs in India, US, Asia, Japan? Do it as parallel tasks. If you do that, typically what happens is it will spin off tasks or sub agents. Okay, so Claude in itself can decide. Okay, so it created one task. So okay, it created two tasks. Now the third task, right? So these are parallelly happening. Each of the task has its own context, and each of them will be doing a separate thing. So each of them is a separate agents. So imagine every time you do a research, so there is a research agent being spin off. Like right now, there is no definition here, right? So what I can do is I can create an agent, which is again similar to skill or commands, again a markdown file. I can tell it like, whenever you do research, make sure you have proper citation, you check these reliable sources, these things. So what happens is, whenever you ask it to, whenever Claude has to invoke an agent, like in these cases where it's going to do a task and it needs an agent to do it, it will invoke this particular research agent.
So agent is just like whatever Claude does, it just runs in the spins the service and separately runs in the background.
Not necessarily in the background, but here it's not in background, right? It's in the foreground only. Okay. But agents are invoked by Claude typically. Skills commands are typically our use case where I say that, hey, I am the one who is instructing /frontend, or like Claude can also figure out if I don't explicitly this thing, but here agents are usually invoked by Claude. Oh, I need a front-end agent, design agent or something. So here what the problem is, there is a big overlap between skill and agent and commands. Agents are typically invoked by Claude, like especially if it is doing a number of tasks and it wants to delegate to a thing. So one other thing is, one other difference is the context. So for example, in skill, what you can do is, I think
I think we might have to, given that it is 11 and people have a lot of questions, we might have to break for Q&A and we can probably.
Sure. The other is hooks that I have not mentioned. Hook is totally different from all these. Hook is when there is, like I began the session, you have everything is tools, right? When you search a file, read a file, write a file, or search web, all these are tools. So every time certain tool is getting invoked, if you want to tell Claude, don't do this, or run this after this particular tool invocation, you can have hook. Typically, it could be like, you don't want Claude to do RMRF. Okay, so what you can say is, can you?
Vaishak, I'm so see. I agree with the people here because there is a lot of context, right? I also feel like we are rushing a little bit. Right. I think let's take some questions and make sure that people understand this hooks. Okay. When agents will come back and cover in more detail in another session is what I would say.
Sure.
Right. Yeah. Super. Folks, let's open up for questions. So yeah, just unmute yourself and ask, please.
Are there any questions?
And there are a few, but
we should decide. Fine. So I've built several products using Windsurf currently, and it does most of the tasks. Like I can build my own skills file. I can create several README files into the project and store them in a directory on my PC itself, and it can refer to those directories. So what is a compelling use case for switching from, let's say, a Cursor or a Windsurf to Claude Code? Because there's a lot of learning that needs to go into, how to operate Claude Code.
Vaishak, if you want it, you can take it, or I can take it.
Yeah. Okay, you can take it. Yeah.
No. So I have not used Windsurf. So if you have used Windsurf, you can take this one.
Okay, so Windsurf is similar to Cursor, right? So
Yeah.
your feeling is that if I have to do Claude, there are so many learning curve. So first thing is, whatever I said about skills, commands, you forget everything. Like you don't need to go so deep into it. Open up Claude, beat your desktop. Since you are from Windsurf, open Claude Code in your desktop app. If you're not comfortable with terminal, what you can do is you start working with it, and as you're working, you will run into the problem. Oh, my context is running, or I'm running into this particular limitation. How do I fix it? If you ask Claude itself, it will tell you, oh, you know what, you have cloud.md, it has so much context, split it into skills. So these are things in Windsurf, and see, Windsurf is like Cursor, and in Windsurf also you have rules folder, right? In Cursor you have .cursor/rules. Here also the same concept. Cloud.md is an equivalent. So I don't think there is a difference in the concepts. Claude also has the same concept as Windsurf or anti-gravity. Every tool has the same concept. It's just that they are named different. The skills is also there. I think Windsurf hasn't introduced, but they will also introduce. Like I showed in my screen share, anti-gravity also has included skills. So this concept is across. It's not specific to one particular tool.
Yeah. So if I like to add to that, right? So the way I think about it is, I've not used Windsurf in like a year, so I can't speak for that. But I have used Cursor until recently. I've used anti-gravity very recently, just before Claude Code. The way I think about these two tools is, even these tools have something called agents on top. So the agentic view is ideally supposed to be hands-off. You give instructions to an agent, it runs 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 15 hours. I know people have run it for hours, and it autonomously does a lot of things. You come and review the work, right? The other ones are basically assistant-based frameworks, all your IDEs, etc., which is you work with the assistants in parallel, like in real time, right? So it kind of is a hands-on kind of an experience. While these models have become much better writing code and writing reliable code, what we have started noticing is that you actually need to be less hands-on. You can be a lot more hands-off. So that is where all these agentic mechanisms are getting better. In the agentic mechanisms, the best user experience is able to be given by Claude Code. So like I've used across, there are some subtleties and other things that they do really well. And the fact that I don't have to think about if you think about the IDE, right, even if I have a file, the agent window is the only thing that I actually operate in. So I realize that I'm not looking at 80% of the things. So having something like a Claude Code, which only does that, became much easier. And second, the reason for me to switch to Claude Code is also because I was using anti-gravity agents. The reason to use Claude Code is because Claude Opus is out of the world, 4.5. So it's the best model that I've actually seen in terms of working. That quality plus some amount of user experience from Claude Code is the difference. Tomorrow, if let's say some other model becomes even better, it warrants a switch. But if something is working for you, there is not the delta. I don't know how to put the delta. I personally prefer, spending money on Claude Code because it gives you a high value output. But it is not like a must-have. I felt that even anti-gravity did a decent job. Yeah, that's how I would put it.
Sure. Thanks a lot. Thanks.
Yeah. Raghu? Okay. Prakar, probably you can go.
Sorry. Thank you so much. It was a wonderful session. A quick question for you as a builder. I saw Bala that he's using a €100 plan, and then now you're running your own startup, so you're using on a €200 plan. Someone who is working full time, but I'm building products on like a side gig. What would be your recommendation? Because I have a Cursor license. I exhausted Claude APIs in 2 days, but I'm getting super impatient with the auto mode and the composer models. It's shit. So I kind of like struggle, and I'm trying to also understand if it is worthwhile to learn Claude Code fully. I tested it, but I'm not an engineer myself. So what would be your recommendation?
I think I will take that because I can relate to your use case more. I had a yearly plan for Cursor, and I'm not an engineer, right? All these learnings came from last year by playing. I'm a product manager by trade. So actually, I find Claude Code not so overwhelming to use. I don't think there is a large learning curve because we've used all these, desktop apps. I mean, even if you are not familiar with terminal, you can just open this new Claude Code or co-work tabs in Claude to kind of like work. It's actually much easier. So don't worry about the learning curve. It's much easier. Cursor, I spent a year. I had a yearly plan for Cursor. I canceled it because of this reason. They keep changing the pricing. Becomes exorbitantly expensive to use them. I use $100 plan. Unlike Vaishak, I don't have multiple accounts or anything, but I have been using it ridiculously. But I've never exhausted any of my limits in the $100 plan. And I am currently working with like a really large code bases, which probably takes about 16 GB of memory to run. So even with those large code bases, I find it is a lot more accurate if I'm able to instruct it well. So all these Ralph Wiggin and other things I've put in some of those frameworks, which have made it like more reliable. But if you are serious about building something and taking it to production, I would recommend use Opus 4.5 in whatever mechanism that actually works well.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That's a great validation. Thanks.
Yeah, we have a recording of this, Sandhya. We'll upload it to YouTube. Prakar, yeah, you can go ahead.
Yeah. Hey Vaishak, first of all, thanks for going. We can really see that you're really passionate about this. There's so much that you've built using this. So one thing that stood out for me is that like I've been using Claude Code a lot as well, but it's mostly on Cursor, and I open the terminal on the side, and then. But it's good to see like a CTO believing so much in the quality output, right? Like that's a big validation. So I've been pushing my devs to use this a lot, but I see a lot of apprehension there. Is there like so far I'm using this mostly for building prototypes, a lot of these internal tools. Are you using this for your production code as well? And if so, are there any tips that you would like to share so that that I can share with my team as well, so that we can switch to Claude Code for production code as well? And that's one. The second part is what I've realized with this is it's good for 0 to 1, but are you using this in existing code bases which are pretty large as well, modifying code there?
In my case, I'm not using it in an existing code base. I started with something new, so I have a little bit of an advantage there. So the thing is, if you have to instruct, every team will be. I in fact have devs as well. Just not I'm working alone now. They also, everybody has apprehension, and but everybody in general do. So the ways I try to lead the way in which I show them how it does and this thing. And the tips is the guardrails, right? Like one of the thing is, even if you set up cloud.md, hey, one common thing is we don't trust the code. It hallucinates. Hallucination is the one that everybody's going to say. Like I showed, there should be a feedback loop. If you do not have a feedback loop, nothing's good. So there has to be, every time you have something feature return, it has to write a unit test or an end-to-end test. So there should be a validation, right? Like, so Claude has to validate itself. Creates a feature, so that will cut down the hallucination. That way your output becomes a little bit more production ready, a little bit more quality. Like I told you, like even if I mentioned in Claude.md, it hallucinates, it ignores. That is the first thing you need. And the second thing is you can have something called git hooks. The one thing is you can have git pre-commit hooks or pre-push hooks. Apart from there are like plenty of services which do PR review and all that. Every time your dev does a commit, or let's say they do a push, Claude in itself, you can have a review agent which you can set it up, which just reviews the code that Claude wrote. And a lot of time, in my case, what happens is Claude picks up the, as a review agent, picks up a lot of things it missed. So these review agent can follow the instruction given in Claude.md, or you can have a separate instruction like security. In fact, in my case, I have front-end code review agent, back-end code review agent, security review agent, and something I forgot. Like, so there are like 4 or 5 review agents whose job is to check this particular code diff, does it follow this standard? Does it have security issue? Does it have accessibility? If it is front end, like very specific reviews things, right? Which people either way do it in a review thing. So that way you can have quality output. The thing is feedback loop with these things. Quality will be better. Like I'm speaking fast because I think the time is slow.
No, sorry, one more thing. So a lot of people also mention that the code written is verbose and it's not very optimal code. Have you
So one important thing is, especially with Gemini, so that is one thing with Claude Opus. One of these things is every developer, whoever is reluctant, is these are people who would have tried a year back, or these are people who would have tried with a different model. So you need to ask them, hey, have you tried with Claude Opus 4.5? Because when I worked with Gemini 3, I think I asked it to solve a problem. So it just hard-coded thing and it just solved the problem. Like it will not scale to other scenarios. Right? Sometimes it will try to do the job. It will take a shortcut. That is a issue. It can be verbose. Sometimes it will try to do a shortcut. That is an issue. With not so great model, Opus 4.5 is decent, but still, if you have another feedback thing, like after it did, so that is what the role of developer is. You can just guide it. Hey, what it did is not enough. This is not. Think about an alternate solution. Think about this. You can at least steer away. So I think the developer's role is going to be more of a chariot, right? You just steer it in this direction. So it will definitely come up with shortcuts, it will come up with something, but it's not bad. 4.5 Opus is not bad compared to other models, which takes a lot of shortcuts.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Bharat.
Hey Vaishak, thanks for sharing. Thanks for the session. I saw your product. It's a very interesting product, and you look at it and say, hey, why didn't somebody think of this before? But is this also built completely with Claude Code, or how? I'm just curious. Yeah.
So that is completely built with Claude Code, and the funny part is I built it using Rust. I'm typically a developer who work with the Python, Ruby, and all this interpreter language. Because I'm more comfortable with Claude Code, I thought, okay, I want to make a high-performant app, right? I don't want to. In older times, I would have used Electron or something which will cause performance issue, but but you need to ship it faster. So that is the advantage I had with Claude Code. So using Claude Code, I did the entire application. Otherwise, I will not even dream of building something like this. So I didn't talk about my product much, but there are plenty of features I have shipped in. I understood, okay, with Claude Code, I'm able to do in a very performant way also, which I previously didn't think of. So yes, thanks, for noticing the product. Oh, by the way, product name is Diwali. I built it during a time of Diwali, so I just named it Diwali. It's a random name, but it's just an application where whatever Claude Code work does, along with that presentation, docs, markdown, everything will be supported. So whatever when I was sharing screen, I was showing some image. It was actually part of my application. So yeah. Thanks, Bharat.
Okay, Rishabh.
Yeah, I just had a question. So I'm work on multiple projects on Claude Code, but just wanted to understand if there's a way to manage skills, commands, or MCP servers, which can be common across projects, or is it necessary to have them again repop folders or projects? So how do you operate across projects, especially if let's say I'm also having something, I'm also managing my own tasks using Claude, but again every project has different tasks, which again needs to be centrally managed. So do you have any tips or workflows that can help you?
So if your project is Git committed and it's in a Git repository, right, it has to have the file there. So if it is in your local, I could say, you can symlink it or figure out a way. Symlink would be an easiest way. You have somewhere globally and you symlink into all of your project. But if your project is, you have other collaborators, it's going to be pushed in Git. You have no other way but to have these files in this particular repo. So that's the way I think I would say.
So all the skills and commands have to be in the same repo.
Yeah, if it has to be shared, right? Because somebody is going to clone the repo, they have to find the file. Otherwise, if it is just
right now, I'm working solo across multiple projects.
Then you can symlink it. Symlink is what I do. So what happened is, before I went all in Claude Code, 3 months back I used to have Codex also. So Codex doesn't follow cloud.md. So it follows agents.md. So what I did is I created readme.md and I symlinked so that cloud.md and agents.md file refers to readme.md. So irrespective of whatever agents that you work, it will always, everything, you don't need to modify each time. Symlink will be a use case in your case, I think.
Understood. Thanks a lot.
Awesome. Cool. Any other questions? Pathiman, yes.
Yeah. So hi Ashok, hi Ba. So thanks for all the knowledge that you shared, and I've been following your LinkedIn post as well. It was so helpful to get into Claude. And my question is regarding skills. So I started using subagents from the time it was introduced. So I was able to set up an agent for my front-end app, back-end app, and other specific traits as well. And I wasn't able to move over to skills. So what you mentioned right now is you could set up a skill for a specific aspect of your application, right? So
Yeah.
are you able to make the transformation, or you didn't set up something like subagent for your front end instead of using skills? So I want to know that particular transformation part, using subagents and moving over to skills.
Oh, so what is the challenge that you're facing right now when moving the subagents? Subagents is still a file, right? So you can just move it. So what is the issue right now that you're facing?
No, I'm not able to understand the benefit of moving over to skills instead of subagents.
Okay. So it also say, like I said, there is a big overlap between the skills agents. Like I said, agents. If in your use case, Claude Code is automatically invoking the agents, you don't need to move to. Okay. Until you find the need, do not move to. So these are skill is you typically invoke it. You explicitly say, you know what, you slash front end do this, or you slash do this. Like only then you need more control. You can use skill, and I will suggest if you have subagents, keep it until you see that no, the subagents are not getting correctly invoked, and I'm not also able to invoke. This is not okay. And the other thing is, I don't know if subagents have the thing called fork::true. What that particular argument does is, you can have a clean context. Skills have this particular parameter. What happens is it will not care about whatever the previous chat window. So whatever is the previous chat. So that skill has, but subagent doesn't have. But otherwise, you have almost same. If you are not running into context, or like you're not running into plan really quick, you have your workflow perfect, you continue doing it. Unless you run into a problem, you can think about extracting some of it into skills. That's what I would suggest.
Okay, because since the time they launched the skills, right, I have been trying to get it into my mind. How can I make use of it? Although I'm using subagents, it's doing the same thing. I figured it out. Like, yeah, so that's the thing.
Maybe you can start with brainstorm or something like research, some alternate skill, some different skill. Then you can see like how it is.
Okay, great. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Cool. I think it's time for us to close. Folks, thank you so much for joining. Vaishak, first of all, thank you so much for spending extra 20 minutes and for the entire session. This was quite amazing. I think we have a lot more context. We'll definitely do a second version of this session. Super awesome, folks. Then have a nice weekend. We'll upload the video in YouTube. By the way, the video upload is also done by Claude Code. That's what I have actually been up to. We'll talk about it some other time. Awesome. Take care. Have a nice weekend, folks.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, guys.